I'm the Sorceress from saucerecipes.tv, and I'm making a lovely tuna pasta bake for our dinner, and this is formed with the basis of a classic white sauce, also known as a bechamel sauce. So I thought I'd show you how to make this sauce. Bechamel is one of the mother sauces, meaning that there are all sorts of other sauces that can be made from it, child sauces if you will. And I'm going to show you one of those today. So here are my ingredients. I have about 2 tablespoons of butter, an equal quantity of flour, some grated cheese that I've prepared, about half a litre of milk, but I'm going to judge how much milk I use, cayenne pepper, nutmeg, salt and pepper. So the first thing for me to do is put the butter in the saucepan on medium-low, and I'm just melting that now. And once it's melted, I can't do it until it's melted, I'm going to add the flour. Now this is what's called a roux, the mixture of the flour and the butter. And the purpose of it is to cook the flour properly, because flour can't absorb liquid until it's been cooked, and it takes a couple of minutes for the flour to cook out properly. This is the foundation of a good white sauce. And the heat can go a bit lower while this is happening. I could add a little bit extra flour to this, but I think it's going to be satisfactory for my purposes. So I need to cook this flour down a little bit and get it ready to absorb the liquid. Flour absorbs about 6 or 7 times its own weight of liquid once it's been properly cooked. So it is very important that it be cooked right through and right out. Now, I have cold milk here. There are some people who say to be a proper sauce without lumps, you need to use warm milk or even hot milk and pour it in all at once. Now, I have found that just dirties another pot. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding a little bit of cold milk at a time, and I'm simply adding it bit by bit and letting it get absorbed by the flour. You see what's happening here? The milk's getting absorbed, the mixture is getting a bit paler, and I'm adding milk as I go, bit by bit. Now this is going to perhaps take a little bit longer than the method of putting hot milk in. You can do it as you like, of course. But I find this gives me a lot of control over lumps in the sauce because I'm stirring it all the time. It's not trying to absorb more than it can handle at any one time. And it's getting into this nice, thick state. I can probably add a little bit more now. And I want it to get to a fairly thick state. I don't want this to be a thin runny sauce because I'm not pouring it over my fish or anything else. I am using it to bind other ingredients for the pasta bake. So I want it to be capable of clinging to the pasta. Now at this point I'm going to add my cheese and stir that until it has dissolved, and then I'll just check the consistency of it because the cheese is going to thicken the sauce up a bit. This is what makes the sauce a Mornay sauce. Apart from the cheese, all the other aspects of making this sauce as a bechamel or a classic white sauce are identical. Now that is very, very thick. I'm going to add a little bit more milk. And at this point I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm also going to add my cayenne and my nutmeg, and I'm going to mix that all up. And then I'm going to taste it because I need to check that I've got everything, oh yum, the way I want it to be. Now, I'm going to add some capsicum, which I've chopped up, and some celery. And I'm adding these ingredients now because I really want them to start to cook a little bit in the sauce and get nice and warm. They're going to give my tuna bake quite a nice crunch. Then I'm going to add my tuna, which I have flaked. This is out of a tin, of course. I've flaked this with a fork because I want smaller bits rather than larger bits. Stir that in. And then I happen to find some slightly old mushrooms in the fridge. The beauty of this sort of pasta bake is that you can put all sorts of things that you happen to have around into it. So I've simply sliced them up, cut them in half, sliced them up, and they're going in. They will probably have a bit of an effect on the colour of my sauce, but not too much. And now that's getting very thick indeed, so I'm going to thin that down a little bit more. And that becomes a sauce that I can mix through with my pasta and bake in the oven. So I'm just going to let this simmer a little bit, and then I shall show you what I do with the pasta. Well, I'm ready to put my pasta in now. My water, as you see, is at a rolling boil. That's what I'm using. This is called orecchiette, and it's a favourite of mine. I just like these lovely little noodles. They're dry pasta, as you see. So to cook pasta well, you need to have the water at a good boil, and then you put the pasta in all at once and stir it. Now, I've already salted this water. Try never to put salt into boiling water, or it actually raises the temperature and salt the water before it comes to the boil. And you don't need any oil. What you do need is just to stir it around a little bit, keep the lid off, turn the temperature down to medium, and just keep it at a rolling boil for the time it's going to cook, which will probably be about 10 minutes. Come back then. You can see how they're moving in the water. Okay. Now my pasta has cooked and is drained. You can see that there's still a little bit of water in the hollows of the shells. I'm going to add them straight into here and mix them up. Pour the whole thing straight into my prepared dish, which I've simply buttered. You could equally use oil or cooking spray. And I have more grated cheese, which I'm going to sprinkle on the top. And this is going to go into the oven about 180 degrees, and it's going to bake until it's brown. Right, well, I believe my dish has now finished cooking, so I'm just going to take it out of the oven. Look at that, sizzling and beautiful. And your family is going to love this dish. Now I have to confess, this is not a dish that I have strict quantities for. It's something I kind of learnt from my mother and adapted for my own purposes, and it is a luscious thing, but I tend to use whatever I have around. So I'll put as many details as I can on the website, but feel free to enjoy it for yourself. So this is the sorceress for saucerecipes.tv, and you have fun with this one. Bye.